Hi, and welcome to Stamp with Ginny. Today I'm going to share with you this adorable little birthday card that I used the Darling Dinosaur stamp sets to create. So let me set this aside and I'll show you how I got started. I'm going to start with the sentiment for this project, and if you find your photopolymer sets when they're new don't stamp the best, try inking them up with some Versamark, which will coat and allow the ink to go onto the project a little easier. I'm going to stamp this right in the center, like so. And let's see, that's a little crooked, so I'm going to flip it over and do it again. I love that our cardstock is thick enough so that you can stamp on both sides. Now that I have that done, I can move on to my focal point. I'm going to bring in my little dinosaur image, ink it up, and stamp it right here in the center of my basic white cardstock strip because we're going to be cutting this out. Next I'm going to add the roar sentiment. Now this is a two-step sentiment, which means I can add whatever sentiment I want in the middle, and I can customize it with a different color. Being photopolymer, I should be able to line that up easily, and there we go. Last but not least, I'm going to add my little hat up here in the left-hand corner. And then I'm going to take these cute little feet and I am going to ink them up in my Lost Lagoon and stamp some of them in the bottom, like so. There we go. I've got my stamping done and I'm ready to color. So I'm going to bring my Stampin' Blends in here, and I'm quickly going to do the inside panel with my light, and I'm simply going to add these little stripes to my party hat to tie in the color. And of course I went out a little bit so I can use my color lifter, and just by adding some of that to the edge I can push it back into the line. Next I'm going to bring in my little dinosaur, and I am going to add my Lost Lagoon to him. I'm going to start with my dark, and I'm going to go around the outside of his face and his little smile, like so, and I'm going to add his little nostril there, and then I'm going to bring in my light and I'm going to blend. Now I like to use a circular motion because I think it gives me a smoother edge, but you can decide how you want to do your coloring, which is one of the things I love about our blends. I'm going to flip this around and use the smaller end and finish coloring his body, adding shadows with that darker color as I go. There we go. I've got my little dinosaur finished, and of course you can add additional layers of color if you'd like to smooth those color transitions out, simply by going over that space again and adding some shading to it. There we go. I've got my little guy done with the Lost Lagoon, so I can cover those caps. I'm going to bring in my Calypso Coral, and I'm going to do his little toenails in the dark. His belly and his spots. And at this point I'm going to bring in my light and go over the rest of his belly, shading a little bit here on the bottom so that it's a little darker. And then I'm going to bring in my fine point and I'm going to do his spines. Now I've laid in the lighter color, and I can go over the bottom of these just a little bit to add some shading and make them a little darker, like so. Once again, that color lifter, if you've gone out of the lines, will allow you to push that color back in easily. Do it in small sections and keep going until you're happy. It'll saturate the paper, push it in, and then when it dries you can do it again. So there you go. I'm ready to cut out my little dinosaur with my circle die, and we can start assembling. While I was at the die cut machine, I added a coordinating circle to my little dinosaur, and we're ready to take our card front, score it, and fold. I'm going to add my panel and layer it first before I add it to my card front. So I am going to lay these panels on top of my Lost Lagoon and space them out the way I like. I want to leave about the same margin on each side, and of course if you've got grid paper, this is a wonderful way to use it, and you could use either side, but I'm going to use this Boulder Gingham side this time rather than using the plaid. And I like to use multi-liquid for this because it's a little easier to move your panels around if you don't stick them down and burnish. So I've got the two outside panels. I'm making sure I'm lining up those top and bottom edges, and then I'm going to add this inside panel before I burnish. I'm going to flip that over so all of the dark lines are on the bottom, like so. And I need to flip this one over because I didn't do that lining up before I started. If you've got a pattern like this that you want it to be consistent, make sure you test which direction they go before you adhere. And as you can see, I can kind of wiggle these a little bit, and then I can burnish once I'm happy with the location. So there we go. I've got my panel on here and I'm ready to add it to my card front. Right there in the center. And then I'm ready to add my layering circle. Now I'm going to add this right in the center of my card, like so. And then I'm going to bring my sentiment in. Now for my sentiment, I want to trim this on the right so that I've got a straight line here. And then on the left, I'm going to do an angle, like so. And I'm going to take my Lost Lagoon, and I am going to kind of lay this on the top, and I'm going to do that same angle, like so. I'm just using this as a guide so the angle looks similar. We've got that done, and I'm going to add my panels here like so. I want to make sure they will fit, and I need to cut a little more of this off. And I'm going to change the angle just slightly. There we go. And that should do it for me. I'm okay if it covers the dinosaur slightly, like that. Okay, so I can adhere this down, and I can actually trim this a little bit so it's not hanging way over. And I want to take it out almost to the edge. And then I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of my dinosaur. I'm going to remove the backing and adhere. Now I've got the dinosaur where he's a little taller over here, so I want to make my sentiment match since it's going to be on both sections. So I'm going to add a dimensional here on the left, and I'm going to add just a little bit of adhesive here on the right. And then I'm going to tack that in place like, let's see, I want his hand to show I'm not as worried about his toes, so I'm going to slide that down slightly and adhere. I want to add a little bit of shimmer, so I'm going to bring in the 2023 In Color Opaque Sparkle Dots, and I'm going to use this color here. It kind of looks like the Calypso Coral and Cajun Craze. I'm going to add a embellishment there. I'm going to add one up here. And I think I'm going to add a third one off to the side here, just to bring the eye around your dinosaur. And last but not least, I can adhere my signature panel on the inside or set it inside so I can complete it later. So there you go, an adorable little card using the Darling Dinosaur stamp set that you can find in our mini catalog. This stamp set also has a coordinating die set. And of course, if you'd like any of these products, feel free to stop by my online store. You can get there from my blog, Stamp with Jini. Thanks for joining me.